Right, are we all ready to go?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's go.
Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Kyanite fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
I'm Mike Booth.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
Contracts, friendlies, transfer rumours and your questions answered. There's no games to talk about, but we're still going to sit here and talk absolute nonsense for well over an hour to keep you entertained. That's the Brunton Bugle for you.
With a pass so true to Boulder Stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run. The old one.
I didn't even put that's the Brunton Bugle for you bit into the script, but I realise it's quite a short intro this week because we haven't got like sort of set subjects really, have we, to talk about? So it's a difficult one. Yeah, it's a first episode in what, 2-3 weeks? Oh, it's 2 weeks, isn't it? Yes, 2 weeks. How are you both doing?
Yeah,
Well,
good. Just don't know what to do without sort of football, you know. But
I spent half an hour sorting my freezer out earlier.
Oh, the excitement.
You know when you need to go through your freezer because you've got like stuff that you've chucked in and you're like, I froze that about 9 months ago, I better chuck it now.
I had some fish fingers the other day that went out of date about 6 months ago, and I'm still alive. So
Oh, very good. See, we moved into this house just under 4 years ago now, and I've still not got around to defrosting the freezer. So one of the drawers is actually in a cupboard upstairs because it doesn't actually fit into the freezer because there's so much ice in there. So yeah, there's boring middle-aged chat for you there, just to open up the podcast this week.
Why don't you do it and then update us when we do an episode around the fixture release?
Maybe I will do. Maybe I'll actually get around to eating what's in there. But from is, we always go shopping when the yellow sticker section in Tesco's rammed.
Wow.
And as soon as we're in, like, right, let's buy that mince and freeze that, even though we don't really need it. But there you go. I think we should probably stop this right there. And then
before I start talking about bulk buying meat and freezing it and stuff.
Indeed. Before we get on to everything, just a quick reminder, as we revealed last week, 2 weeks ago even, sorry, the London branch is going to sponsor the podcast again next season. That's the Carlisle United Sports Club London branch. They're open to all Carlisle United fans, got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston, Singapore, and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips as well as arranging many social events, sports games and fundraising for the club. Next season, as they did throughout last season, they'll be providing us with a bit of information for away games as part of the preview section. And you can find out more about the London Branch at carlisle.londonbranch.org. I would heartily recommend, if you are a XL Kyanite fan outside the county, to consider signing up because they do really fantastic fundraising in the club. And like I said, if you go into away games as well, they've always got really good advice in terms of stuff like that. He's speaking as a man who's forgot to renew his thing for quite a while now, so I'll have to get around to that anyway. Well, let's get into the news then, lads. So this week, obviously, I should explain actually this week's episode. So what we're going to do is, because there's no matches to talk about and talk signings is a little bit thin on the ground still, although we might discuss a few rumours and things like that. Basically, we're going to do a news section. We're going to do maybe a little roundup on how that remaining loanee got on as well. We're going to talk about the League Two lineup for next season and how we think it's fared up and how annoyed we are that the two southern teams were the ones that managed to get relegated in the end from League One. And also, we're going to answer your questions. So we asked about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, Dan, wasn't it, I think, for listener questions for this episode?
Yeah, and we've picked a selection.
Yes.
What we will say is there was 2 or 3 questions about kits. We're going to put a tweet up with a link to our kit special.
Yes,
because a lot of those questions were sort of covered in that. So
yeah. We do need to do a kit special on the away kits, though, don't we? Because we haven't actually done that. We've only done home kits, but there you go. Right, well, let's get straight into the news section because we have got actually a little bit to fit in this episode. To be fair, we're going to start with a bit of sad news, aren't we? Unfortunately, one in particular was quite shocking news, wasn't it, when it emerged not long ago? Former Blues forwards Frank Clark and Craig Farrell have both passed away in recent weeks. We'll talk about Clark first. He was one of the famous 5 Clark brothers that all played in the Football League, didn't they? Alan, Derek, Kelvin and Wayne. Alan, probably the best name, wasn't he? I think he played for Leeds United in England.
Yeah,
An incredible scoring rate, for both international and club level. Interesting, actually, his brother Derek played for United as well. He was a one-game wonder. He came on loan and played one game towards the end of his career. But unfortunately, I think Frank had actually left the club by then, so they didn't get to play with each other, which is quite sad. He began his career at Shrewsbury Town. He earned legendary status there, though. He scored 77 goals in 188 appearances for the club. He had then spells at QPR and Ipswich Town, where he played in the First Division. But then he made the move up to Cumbria, stayed with the club for 5 years. He scored 30 goals in 126 appearances. I think the key thing here, though, Dan, is he was part of the team that got promoted to the First Division for the first time, and he was the top scorer, wasn't he, in that season?
He got 16 from 36, didn't he? So
it was quite a good rate, really. Nearly 1 in 2, basically, and we
wouldn't
weren't
say no to one of them.
we weren't a free scoring side either, really, back then. Either, I mean,
no.
He struggled a bit more in the First Division, as did the whole team, really, in terms of scoring goals. He was coming towards the end of his career at that point, really. But
bear in mind, back then as well, defenders could get away with GBH.
Oh yeah,
so a good goal scoring run back then is very impressive by today's standards.
Yeah, he did really well. After retirement, he returned to Shropshire to run a sports centre. After retiring from football, and then he obviously retired from working. He was 79 at the time of his death. As we'd say, condolences to his family. A true Carl United legend, I think it's very fair to say. I think Farrell's passing, it's fair to say, Mike, is much more shocking news, isn't it? Only 39 years old. I mean, we don't have any details on death, and we're not going to pry into that. We're not interested. It's just sad news all around, isn't it? Yeah, he was born in Middlesbrough, came up through the Leeds United Academy. He did have a spell in Boroughs Academy, but as was quite often the case back then, Leeds United had a habit of poaching quite a lot of players from Middlesbrough, didn't they? Obviously, Jonathan Woodgate being another one of them. He never made a professional appearance for Leeds United, and then he came on loan to the Blues. I think it was October 2002, I think it would have been. It was under Roddy Collins, wasn't it? It was Roddy Collins' first season when John Courtney was in charge. He came in on loan at the same time as John Sutton, I seem to remember. And actually, it was weird. We had an on-loan strike partnership, didn't we? Because I think Richie Foran maybe was struggling a little bit of an injury at that point. And he really made an impact. 4 goals in his first 7 games, and that convinced the club to pay a small fee to sign him permanently from Leeds. He'd go on to score 24 goals in 96 appearances, exactly a 1 in 4 scoring rate. And as you pointed out on, I think, social media, Dan, that was quite impressive considering how poor of a side we were back then, wasn't it?
Oh, we were doggo. We were doggo back then. You know what I mean? Yeah. Remember the famous game at Wrexham, where we got beat 6-1 and Roddy Collins was less than complimentary, shall we say?
Well, Farrell was dropped for that game, wasn't he? Because I think he played the previous game and he didn't feature, and he made some comments. We're not going to go to the comments now. It's but it wasn't overly helpful. I think, remember, we played a sports game that day, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we were coming back after that 6-1 defeat, and we were all saying how we weren't overly impressed with Roddy's comments about Farrell that day, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, I think he finished top scorer in at least 2 of the seasons. I think he was with us. I think his first season, and I think the season we got relegated to the conference, I think him and Brunton Bugle both finished on 7 goals, which is incredible when you think about your top scorers in a league season being on 7 goals, isn't it? But yeah, he didn't feature as much in the conference season. Did chip in with a few important goals though, and then left the club to join Exeter City. He would go on to further play for York City, but I think he's probably best remembered in his career as he spells with us and York. Oxford United, Rushden Diamonds, AFC Telford United, Hinckley United, Blythe Spartans and Whitby Town before retiring in 2015. And same with Frank's family. We would pass on our best wishes and condolences to Craig's family at this really difficult time. Okay, well, let's move on to the other news then. First up, we've got 2 more friendly fixtures confirmed, haven't we? So we were waiting, obviously, for the bigger clubs to be announced that we were going to be facing. Because obviously last time out, we found out we were playing against Workington, Penrith and Kendal. But we've now got 2 games against League One opposition confirmed, haven't we, Dan?
Yeah, we've got Bolton at home on Saturday the 16th and Morecambe away. Morecambe away as a friendly. Good grief.
It's
on
weird
Saturday the 23rd.
It's weird because generally you don't play away from home in friendlies against teams from higher divisions, do you? Really? I mean, I think I can only think of one other time before in recent times when we did it, which I think was against Bradford. I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I remember that one. But I almost wonder if one with Morecambe, maybe they're struggling to get a game against someone and they thought, well, Carlisle always used to bring 1,200.
Yeah, Carlisle will bring 500 for the friendly.
Yeah, they'll easily bring... I mean, I get back 2 days before that from my honeymoon, so it'll be the only pre-season friendly I'll probably get to.
Yeah. I missed the Bolton one myself because I'm at a gig in London that weekend. So two interesting friendlies. I've heard a few people complaining. I think I don't have a problem with them. I think it's 2 good tests. It's certainly better than playing Halifax, isn't it? There is also a date on the fixture list for Tuesday the 19th.
Yes.
But one team it won't be, which had been rumoured, is Sunderland.
Yes.
Because they released their pre-season today and we don't feature in it. I think they're playing...
Bradford.
Is it Bradford?
Yeah.
Bradford, on that day.
Yeah.
So
interesting to see. Like I said, I think it's 2 decent tests that actually, and much better than playing a Premier League team who comes and just batters you, really, isn't it? It's not really... Yeah, it's nice for the coffers, but doesn't really tell you much about the season ahead. As does playing a team of National League trialists, basically, as we found out last summer. Yeah, that'll go down as one of the weirder decisions we'll ever see. But there you go. So there you go. Pre-season friendlies. Hopefully, we'll have a bit more news by the time the fixture list comes out in terms of any other games. Contract news. So we've got the contract division confirmed. We thought it was going to come at the end of May, and it pretty much did. I think it's a little bit after, wasn't it, for one of them? But 2 stay, 2 go, Mike. Are you at all surprised? Obviously, it's Taylor Charters and Brendan Dickinson have both signed up till the summer of 2023. Joe Riley, we already knew, turned down a deal. But Magnus Norman has also turned down his chance to stay with the club. Any thoughts?
I'm surprised with Norman because, I'm not entirely convinced that... I mean, fair play to his agent if he can, but if he can get a better offer than us... because he's got a baby on the way as well, hasn't he? So it's a bit of a bold move from him.
He announced that after the contract news, though, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I wonder if he has something lined up.
Yeah,
could be.
And the other one, obviously, Dickinson. I think it was announced about 2 days after one of them Twitter accounts said that he turned the contract down.
Very sure.
But we've all said there is a player in there with Dickinson. There's no disputing that. I think we haven't seen him sort of cement down a position as his own. And to be honest, he knows he's not a fan favourite, and he could have easily got another club in the Football League. And for him to stay and be like, no, I want to prove a point. That takes guts, and I respect that. And as long as he wears a blue shirt, I'll get behind him, and I hope other fans can as well.
2 things stand out for me for this thing. Obviously, you mentioned their Norman a bit. I mean, Taylor Charters signing, not really a massive surprise. He's done really well at Gateshead, and it sounds like he's a good chance for him to try and work out what his best position is, because Simo's comments interestingly mentioned about 2 or 3 different positions he could possibly play. So maybe they just want to try and work that out and get him more developed into that role. Magnus Norman, I think you mentioned this, Dan, that you do wonder if he'd maybe got a National League sort of London South East based club lined up.
There's a lot of National League teams in London. You've got Barnet, Dagenham, Wealdstone. There's loads in that area. So I just wonder if he's got something, and with having a little one on the way, he wants to go home.
Maybe the contract length was a bit of an issue as well, obviously, because we've noticed that both Charters and Dickinson have signed 1-year deals. If Norman's offered that, maybe he's looking for not so much a bigger wage, but he's looking for a little bit more security, isn't he? Maybe that you never know with these things. Dickinson, I completely agree. I think it's fair play to the lad, and yes, towards the end of the season he looked a little bit ropey in a couple of games, but as I think Simo himself pointed out, he wasn't really fair on him, playing him as a central midfielder. That should really be a bit of a slight on Danny Devine as much as anything. He should look and think, Simo prefers to play a left wing and a left wing back in centre midfield, who was struggling a little bit in some of those games, than play me. Probably tells you all you need to know there. But yeah, with Dickinson, I think, fair play lad. And actually, Simo's comments are very revealing because he sounded really chuffed that Dickinson has decided to stay, didn't he? And he recognises the good player there. And I think he always backs himself to get someone playing a bit better, doesn't he? So you look back to his first time in charge, Chris Billy. A lot of our fans, prior to Simo getting really going, weren't big fans of Billy. But he made him in. Well, not made him into it, but he worked on him and got him playing to the level he was capable of, that he had shown previously against us and things like that. So yeah, it's one of those ones. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Dan, don't know what your thoughts are in terms of the contracts.
Pretty much as expected. I think people would have liked Joe Riley to stay, but it's not the biggest loss if he goes. As we said last time, Norman, it certainly means that we need keepers.
Yeah,
because we've got the 2 first-year pros. The big question is, do we go for all out for a good number one and sort of take it in turns with the young boys on the bench for experience, maybe send them out for a month loan in alternate?
Yeah.
Or do we go for 2 similar to push each other?
Yep, that's the one way of looking at it. Well, we've covered the contract piece. So before we go on to talking about the League Two lineup and Justin Abraham's success, shall we say, with Grimsby Town, let's talk about some of the transfer rumours, because obviously the only one confirmed so far is Owen Moxon in terms of signing, but there's quite a few whispers and rumours now, isn't there? The players have been signed up, we just haven't announced them. And it's basically they're just waiting for the confirmation. If you actually look back a couple of seasons ago, we did quite similar, didn't we? We announced them all over a week.
The transfer window officially opens on Friday when you should all be listening to this.
Yes, so it'd be interesting to see if there's maybe a couple announced then, possibly.
Yeah. Thinking back, I mean, it's a good few years ago now. I'm pretty sure that Simo used to sort of announce them more or less when the window opened, which was because people are sort of a bit, we've only signed one, other clubs are signing players. 2 of our early window signings last season was Zach Clough and Tristan Abrams, so let's not, let's be careful what you wish for.
Indeed. So yeah, so basically the crack is there's a few players signed up and they're just waiting to confirm them publicly. I put a list of 6 players here. Now, there's dozens and dozens of players we've been linked with on those daft Twitter accounts.
3 of them are goalkeepers, aren't they?
Yes, yeah. So basically, there's dozens of players who have been linked to us on these Twitter accounts. Dan, you're keeping a really good list of how these ridiculous rumours as they come out.
Yeah.
But these 6 names have all been linked very strongly and from good sources that we've heard, aren't they? So we'll go through them and discuss some of them. First up, in fact, I've got them in this order, but we'll start with the goalkeeper, shall we? Because, like you said, Dan, there's 3 of them there. So, first up, a lad from the northeast, but he's been playing in the southwest over the last couple of seasons. Sean McDonald. I got excited when I saw this. Is that the lad who played for Swansea? He was a very good. And
no,
Bournemouth,
he's about 33 in the League of Wales now.
I found that when I was looking up, I was like, oh, it's not him, obviously. But
we all did the same, didn't we?
So Sean McDonald, goalkeeper at Torquay United, I think he was one of their players of the season last year.
He was player of the season at Torquay, and I think he's one of them who's ready for the step up by all accounts. He's ex-Gateshead and Blythe. Mm-hmm. He knows John Mellish from Gateshead a few years ago. They follow each other on Twitter. It's not a new thing for those who like to ratch about such things. Can't comment on that myself. He certainly ticks the right boxes. He's about 25-ish.
Yeah. Similar to Norman then, yeah.
He's wanting to become a number one. He ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's an interesting one, isn't he? As is one of the other goalkeepers, Thomas Holy. The Ipswich Town goalkeeper. I think he's just been released by Ipswich Town. He's also been linked. Interesting fact about him: he's 6'9" tall.
He's massive.
He is absolutely huge. It's funny if you go and look at his Wikipedia page. His photo is hilarious though, because it's literally just the top of his head is what you see in the picture thing. And it's kind of like, someone messaged me and said, where was the photo taken? The International Space Station. It's like, it looks ridiculous, but. I mean, that's an interesting one, isn't it, Mike? Just coming out of nowhere, really. A move from Ipswich to the Blues. Someone who certainly grabbed a few headlines in terms of his height, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he started off at Sparta Prague, didn't he? So he's had quite a bizarre route into English football. But I mean, he's 30, and I think he hasn't played a lot of football for a 30-year-old. I wouldn't say.
You do find that with goalkeepers, though, don't you? Really, you've got to be careful when you're judging them because they take different routes. Like someone like Magnus Norman's 25, and he's only played a handful of games, doesn't he? So that can happen. Would he be our second Czech goalkeeper to have played for us? I think after the legendary was Spiegel, was he Czech, wasn't he?
No, he's Swiss.
No, he was Swiss.
Swiss, you're right. Sorry, I do apologise. So would he be our first Czech player actually then? I don't know if we've had a Czech player.
We've had a Czech trialist before.
Yeah, I remember that. Was he? No, that wasn't he Slovakian.
No, we've had a Czech as well. I'm sure we have.
Okay, well there you go. So he could be our first Czechoslovakian player. I'll have to. Well, Czechoslovakian that doesn't exist. Well, he was born in Czechoslovakia. To be fair, it was still existing when he was born. But first Czech Republic player, basically potentially playing for us. So he'd be an interesting one. But yeah, he's one who's been linked. And the third goalkeeper is one that both me and you heard a while ago, Dan, isn't it? One from one of your Scottish lists, isn't it?
Yeah, young keeper at Queen of the South, Josh Ray. I think he's only about 21. But although Queen of the South got relegated, this lad actually sort of kept them in the battle by all accounts for a number of weeks. He was pretty much a player of the year despite his young age. And the whisper on Pie and Bovril, I think it was, which I often have a read on. There was whispers he could be coming down the A75. We've not heard anything since. It could just be talk. Maybe it was a ruse to get a better deal, or he's been tapped up higher up. But again, I think he would come in if we went all out on a bigger number one, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, with the intention of him challenging them to potentially get a number one spot. Yeah, I think I'd agree with you on that one. It'd be certainly be an interesting one if he came in. Like you said, problem is he's only a year or two older than Simons and Breeze, so you do wonder with that. That's why I'm a little bit more sceptical on that one, I think, than some of the other names that have been linked. So that's your three goalkeepers. Moving on to the others, you've got a winger and two midfielders. We'll start with the one that seems almost certain has been done because of the amount of people who've said they've heard of him having medicals and things like that. Fulham midfielder Sonny Hilton, who is allegedly joining on a season-long loan from the newly promoted Premier League side. Another interesting one, that Dan, isn't it? He's not. I tell you what, if he does sign and Thomas Holy signs, I want them stood next to each other on the squad photo at the start of the season because he's about 5'6", isn't he? He's a little lad. By all accounts, he's got a bit of bite about him, and his record for Fulham in the Premier League 2 is pretty decent, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got a number of goals and assists last season. I think he had a couple of strikes in Goal of the Season, which is on the Fulham Academy YouTube. He certainly looks like, and obviously them going up to the Premier League, I don't think he's at Premier League level.
No.
But that's obviously a good thing for us if we're in for him.
He had a loan spell in Finland towards the end of last season. I think he spent a few months there.
I've always a lot of respect for young lads who are prepared to go abroad on loan.
Me too.
Was it? I think who else did one? Peter Crouch did at the start of his career. Then he went to Sweden on loan, I think. But yeah, he's not a Londoner. He's from Liverpool originally. He was in Tranmere's academy. So interesting to see if anything comes of that. But I think, because he's 21 now, is he? I think he might have been, or maybe 22, I can't remember. He might have been involved in some of the England youth setups that Simo was involved in. So again, that could be where some of his contacts have come into very good use, isn't it? Next up is a name that seems to have been linked with us quite a bit over the last month or two, Mike. Harry Chapman. Now, he is someone who definitely has been involved with Simo in England setup before, isn't he?
Yeah, and he'd be a very, very good signing, to be honest with you. He hasn't really sort of kicked on at Blackburn. But, you know, if Simo's worked with him before, Simo will probably back himself to be the one who can get the most out of him.
Yeah, I mean, he started out in Middlesbrough. He was part of that England under-20 team that won the World Cup. didn't quite work out for him at Middlesbrough. Hasn't really quite worked out for him at Blackburn. He had a loan spell last season at Burton Albion. I think was it for the whole season, because I think he might have actually played alongside what's his name, Patrick. Yeah, when he was there. So I mean, he's had a few other loan spells throughout his career. Loan spell at Shrewsbury Town as well.
Do you know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Both in the club he came from and his sort of thing.
Yeah,
Alex Maddow.
Yes.
Now, I'm hoping if he does come, he doesn't turn out like Alex Maddow.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a tweet from a North East journalist suggesting that, despite rumours of the contrary, Chapman has not agreed a deal with Carlisle. One hasn't even been in the pipeline as things stand either. Still available. That's Paul Fraser who's tweeted that. He is a North East football journalist, so possibly there may be nothing in this one. But the other worry I've got with him is I just get ever so slight Zach Clough vibes with him. Not quite as experienced as Clough, and not obviously the big transfer fees, but there's just that feeling like, ooh, could he, we got so excited about Clough last season. You're going to be wary every time now we sign one of these players who's just lost their way a little bit and is dropping down to our level. So it's a tough one to judge. Whether he will sign or not, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if anything happens there. The final one, Dan, is one who seems to have been linked with us every single transfer window for about the last 2 or 3 years. Young Josh McPake from Rangers, who you know a bit about as well.
Yeah, Josh McPake went to Tranmere and Morecambe, was it last season?
Yeah.
Yes.
It didn't really happen for him in the second of those spells. 20-year-old winger. He's 21 end of August, I think it is. I mean, I'm just looking. He only played 5 games for Morecambe, 14 for Tranmere. He did a lot better at Harrogate the season before. A lot was thought of him at Rangers, but I don't think he's at that level. Everyone knows I would love to see more Scottish players, and I think he's the sort it would be worth maybe having a go on. But there's others in for him as well, isn't there?
It's just a weird one because every loan spell he has, bar that one at Harrogate, just doesn't go well. He doesn't play anywhere near enough football, and you just wonder.
That could be any number of reasons. To be fair,
it could be, to be fair. But I mean, I'm just looking at it now. I don't know how long his contract is at Rangers. He's only 20 still. He turns 21 at the end of August. But you do almost wonder for someone like him, is it better to move away permanently from Rangers rather than keep on with these loan spells that don't work out? But maybe being a little bit closer to home at United might actually help him a little bit. But yeah. You don't know with them. So that's the 6 that have been linked, and as we obviously record, they revealed that it looks like Chapman might not be a player we're after, but you never know on these things. So let's move on to the loan updates quickly. Let's bash through this one. Tristan Abrahams. Well. It's been a dramatic few weeks for him, I think it's fair to say. I mean, his involvement's been a little bit more limited, but he's still been a part of the Grimsby Town side that's got back to the EFL at the first time of asking, and against all odds, really, because they're the first side to finish 6th or 7th. They actually finished, I think they finished 6th in the end. So they're the first side that's finishing in one of those positions to go up via the playoffs in the National League. Obviously, the National League playoffs are a little bit different to ours. They have quarterfinals, then semis, then a final, basically, because 6 teams are involved in it. But the 3 games they played in, especially the first 2, and the middle one more than any.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous games, weren't they, Dan? I mean,
yeah.
First up was obviously Notts County. And Notts County were doing pretty well towards the end of last season, so you'd have fancied them maybe with some of the players they had to do it. But despite being 1-0 up on 73 minutes, Grimsby grabbed a 90th minute equaliser from Gavin Houlihan, which was assisted by the goalkeeper from a corner. It was something like that. He didn't know what he was doing, but he did play a sideways pass to Houlihan to score the goal. And then they grabbed a 119th minute winner through Emmanuel Diezure. I said that right, haven't I? I hope I've said that right. Yeah. But so he got a 119th minute winner in extra time to set them through to the semi-finals. Tristan actually came on as an 81st minute sub in that game. I mean, the game against Wrexham, where do you even...
The Wrexham game, wow. They went 1-0 down, 2-1 up, 3-2 down.
One of the goals was a handball, we should say that at this point. Because
4-3 up, 4-4, and then Luke Waterfall got it in with a minute to go in extra time
against his former club as well. I think it wasn't it, Luke Waterfall? Was it Luke Waterfall? One of them anyway. At least.
Yeah, Waterfall was at Wrexham. Yeah,
I think two of them at Wrexham. Actually,
he only played a couple of games for them, but
yeah, but I mean, an absolutely ridiculous game. I mean, the I watched that. Basically, I was supposed to be doing stuff in the garden. I hope Megan's not listening to this, but I basically put it off for a little bit because I started watching it. I was like, wow, this game's engrossing, and it genuinely was, because I've watched some National League games on BT Sport, and you have as well, Dan, for quite a bit. And I'm never convinced by what people say. They're as good as the teams in League Two. I'm not 100% convinced by that claim. But this game is as good as any game I'd seen in League Two for a long time. It was a really good game of football, very direct, but entertainment-wise, it was brilliant. And yeah,
I think what it is with the National League, I would say probably the top 8 to 10 teams are League Two level.
Yeah.
And the remaining aren't.
Yeah. You're probably right with that. And I think some of the teams in the top 8 might struggle a bit going full-time. Solihull, Moors and people like that might find it a bit tougher when they get into League Two level. But yeah, I generally probably agree with you on that one. But yeah, so that's just a ridiculous game of football with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney there to feel the despair, having lost.
Did you see the offside goal with them?
Yes, the one at Wembley in the FA Trophy final. More on that later on. There you go. Former Bluesman, Aaron Hayden. Facing up to another season in non-league football with Wrexham. Penny for his thoughts right now. Yeah,
he's probably wiping his tears with his £20 notes, though. To be fair, so
yeah. I mean, you never blame a player for doing that and moving away, but it's more the way it was done. The fact that Wrexham did it literally the day before the first game of the season, which was a big game for us, and I think someone like Hayden actually plays in that game, we probably win it because we had quite a few set pieces, and you know what a danger he is on them. But as it was, we had to change the team at the last second, and it didn't work, and we drew 0-0, and it all went downhill from there. I'm not saying that would have changed our season, but it can have an effect, can't it? They got to the final where they travelled to West Ham United's London Stadium, facing up against Solihull Moors. They finished third in the regular season. Wrexham finished second, and unsurprisingly, they were the bigger favourites to win the playoffs. But it was the Moors that took the lead in this game as well, and it looked like we were going to get a new team in the Football League, but the Mariners drew level and then grabbed the winner in the 111th minute. Tristan came on in this game as a 101st minute sub. His main contribution was getting a booking for time wasting, and it was a very funny booking though, so it's fair play to him. I think also getting booked in this game for a bit of time wasting was another former Blue, Max Crocombe, in goals for Grimsby. So congratulations to him. He's really rebuilt his career, hasn't he? Since returning back to England. So there you go. Fantastic for the Mariners. Great news for Tristan as well. It's interesting to see what happens next, though, isn't it, Dan? Because
one place I won't be in a rush to go to watch us next season unless it's to win the league.
It's not the best away end. I think it's fair to say.
I remember once going, just going off topic slightly, on a Saturday in mid-December after doing a Friday night shift at the place I worked back then. So I finished work, got home, changed, I went on the train, went to Cleethorpes. The fog was coming in off the sea. It was dark by 2:30, and the only thing open was the chip shop, and that was it.
Cracking chip shop though, that one near the ground. Really good cracking chip shop. So the big question right now, Dan, is do they sign him permanently or not? I mean, Simo's not said he's available for transfer, but he's kind of hinted, look, if clubs come in for players...
Paul Simpson basically said he expects everyone back for training, and they all have a chance under him. If people want to move, they can go and see him and say, look, Grimsby want to keep me, can we come to a deal? And I'm pretty sure we'd just let them take his contract on as such,
Yeah, that's the thing I'd imagine. So it'd be interesting to see, because obviously he didn't actually start that many games for Grimsby, but he seems a fairly popular player from what we've seen. So there you go. So that's the update on the final loan update of the season. Next up, before we have the half-time break, the final League Two lineup is sorted as a result of that game. So, Dan, you've got a way of going through these, you think? So, take it away.
Yeah, we've got going out to the conference at Oldham and Scunthorpe.
Yeah.
And coming in at Stockport and Grimsby.
Yeah.
Going up to League One, we have Forest Green, Exeter, Bristol Rovers and Port Vale. And joining us, we've got Gillingham, Doncaster, Wimbledon and Crewe.
Yeah, there you go. That's the big changes for this season. So, obviously, the full lineup, you're Wimbledon, Barrow. Wimbledon goes first because it's AFC, which just annoys me, but there you go. AFC, Wimbledon, Barrow, Bradford, ourselves, Colchester, Crawley, Crewe, Doncaster, Gillingham, Grimsby, Harrogate, Hartlepool, Leyton Orient, Mansfield, Newport, Northampton, Rochdale, Salford, Stevenage, Stockport, Sutton, Swindon, Tranmere, Walsall. Any games in particular you're looking forward to from that? Obviously, we'll have the fixtures next time. Any trips you're looking forward to, maybe?
The first thing I notice is 14 of the teams you would class as sort of, I know Walsall's not the north, but if you split it to north and south, Walsall would be the 14th team heading away from us. So it's a bit more northerly.
Yeah.
In terms of games to stand out, I've never been to Doncaster's ground yet. So that'll be one for me. And I think a lot of folk are looking forward to AFC Wimbledon. Chance of a London weekender.
It's a new ground as well. Obviously, AFC Wimbledon, we've not been to the new one. And it is literally like a short walk from the Wimbledon mainline station, which is lovely news because, as you remember last time, Dan, the one we went, we had a nightmare getting back from Kingston because the services were all off, weren't they? So that was not much fun at all that time. But yeah, that's one to look forward to. Salford obviously still playing at Moor Lane next season, aren't they? They've not moved to the rugby league ground yet. That's probably going to be the season after, we think, although they've...
Oh, Stockport. Stockport should be a good return.
Oh, Stockport, yes, of course. We haven't been there for quite a while. But yeah, Salford, interesting one. They've made a few redundancies recently, haven't they? So interesting to see what's going on there. But I'm like you. I've never been to Doncaster, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to inevitably playing Crewe on either Boxing Day or New Year's Day, as always happens. Every single bloody season we play them, but there you go. I don't think anyone's particularly looking forward to going back to Holger Street unless they've actually...
I've still never been though, and so I kind of need to tick it off. But obviously, when they're only giving away an allocation of 6 people, it's difficult to go.
Tell you what, Mike, you can have my ticket for that game because I will not be going to it. So, and you can have my one for that one. Go on your own, and you can see what it's like to go there because it's not much fun. But there you go. Okay, with all that sorted, then we'll do the halftime break now. We're back shortly to discuss your questions and a few little quiz questions as well, I think, that Mike and Dan have got lined up for as well. So we're back in just a jiffy.
This is John Mellish. You're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
And we're back for the second half of the show. Just a reminder, of course, you can subscribe to the podcast via all good podcast apps, whether that's Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Apple Podcasts, and if on any of those podcasts you can review the pod, we'd be really appreciative if you could give us a good review at the very least. And it just helps people find the pod a bit easier, and that's really helpful for us. And also, you can follow us on social media at Brunton Bugle on both Twitter and Instagram. We're on Facebook as well. Just search for the Brunton Bugle and click like. And we're always posting on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group and on the Cumbrians.net message board. And of course, as I always say, the old-fashioned way, if you want to email us, bruntonbugle@gmail.com as well is another way of getting in contact. Right, so we're going to get on to your questions in a minute, but Dan, I think you said you had a good quiz question for this week's episode. I think Mike has as well, so let's have yours first, Dan, then we'll have Mike's.
I can't remember what it was.
Oh, typical. But there you go.
Because I've had that many. I've been starting to make notes and I can't remember which one it was.
That's so slow, isn't it, that really? But there you go.
Yeah.
Just for listeners as well, if you're wondering why Dan's sound has gone a bit weird, a bit different, we've had a few technical gremlins at the halfway point in this week's show, so we've had to find an alternative way to get Dan's recording. So there you go.
I'm actually hanging upside down out my bedroom window with my iPad at a certain angle to catch the sun. Perfect.
Mike, what was your question then? What question did you have for us, for the listeners as well?
Right, so during our head of recruitment, Greg Abbott's spells as manager, we had 24 international footballers play for us. Some of them got their caps before they played for us, some of them got the caps after they played for us, but there's 24 altogether. Who are they?
Ooh, we'll have to come back to that one, won't we? Because there's a few internationals to mention in the X-Files section later for you, Dan, isn't there? So
yeah.
Some of them may well even be in that bit there, possibly. We never know.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's a really good question. That one. There must be a fair few in there. I'm trying to think off the top of my head right now. Yeah, interesting. Right. Well, let's get on to this. And so obviously, no game to discuss. Sorry, put my teeth back in. No games to discuss at the moment, and news still being a bit thin. We've asked you a couple of weeks ago to send us in your CUFC-related questions for us to answer. You've responded with, I think it's fair to say, an eclectic selection of questions, and we're now going to attempt to discuss them. Dan, you've put them together, and you sort of categorised them, haven't you, really? So we're going to go through in order.
Well, I've tried.
You've tried to, indeed, yeah. So we're going to go through some of these first. So first up, we'll talk about managers first, is the first section. So Carl Byers asked us, and I do wonder if this was a pointed one trying to get Dan to talk about... although actually, to be fair, he said since Keith Curl, then he said maybe he doesn't count as much. So he said, what is your honest opinion on all our managers since Keith Curl? So that would be... he's put Curl on the list, but we're not going to talk about Curl because we've talked about him enough times. So John Sheridan, Stephen Greenshoots Presley, Chris Beach, and Keith Millen. Obviously, Paul Simpson's in charge now. We don't really talk about how great he is. So, Mike, do you want to start? What's your feelings on these? Any particular that stand out for you?
Well, I think John Sheridan was wonderful, to be honest. I know he's a bit chalk and cheese with some people, but I think he was great. He said it exactly how it was. It was really refreshing to hear. I think, reading between the lines of some things that he said since he left the club, I think he was a bit scared, to be honest, because we were in a very good position for promotion. And I think if we did get promotion, he knew that we just didn't have the right things in place to be a League One club, and he took the offer at Chesterfield, and that was that.
I think with Sheridan, there's a few factors in why he left. Is one, Chesterfield's a lot closer to his home. He's managed them before. Two, they were offering him daft money to go and manage in the National League. And three, I think he recognised a lot quicker than anyone else that promises that those key loan players that we had on loan were going to stay for the rest of the season, going to be signed up, was a load of BS, basically, wasn't it?
I think if he'd have stayed longer, he would have ended up pinning Holdsworth against a wall and getting sacked, to be honest with you.
Well, we'd have paid a good minute to do that. But I mean, Dan, I know you're a big... I liked him as well, to be fair. Like I said, he didn't mess around with what he said. He was a good manager of that level. And I think he'll do well with Oldham, actually, next season. I think he'll put together a half-decent side for them, and they'll challenge for the playoffs at the very least in the National League. Dan, you were a big fan of his, weren't you?
Yeah, no nonsense, last of a dying breed type of manager, to be quite honest. Some questionable ideas, but he has his way and it works for him, and he keeps getting jobbed, so he must do something right.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, once his team actually got together and started playing well, they were actually quite exciting to watch. We played some great football.
We won like 7 on the bounce, didn't we?
Something like that, wasn't it? Yeah, and we were really flying, but didn't actually quite work out in the end. So there you go. That's our thoughts on him. Stephen Presley. Dan, again, I think we both you and me agree. Nice bloke, probably with some quite good ideas, but really did not have the resource to do what he wanted to do, did he? And in the end, it made him look a bit silly, really, didn't it?
Yeah, I think he was a bit of a victim of circumstance. Yeah, he's a lovely bloke. I had a really good crack with him at a manager's forum once. He had some good ideas. He had some cracking contacts, but he was in charge when the belt tightening was really happening.
Yeah,
and I think some of the players we got weren't the first, second, maybe even third choice player.
I mean, Connor Simpson is a prime example of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Easy striker brought in to replace Jerry Yates, basically.
Yeah. Well, that was also the season where he who shall not be named said that Yates, Naderson, etc. were all stopping, and Sowerby, and none of them did. So, you know,
Yeah, tells you what you need to know, doesn't it?
But as well, he brought Hayden into the club, but he didn't really get the best out of him. And he brought Jack Iredale in, who's now a solid League One left back, and again didn't get the best out of him either. So
he used his contacts as well to get Callum O'Hare on loan for us.
Yeah,
and,
it was brilliant.
Look how well he's doing now. He was on the stage at Radio 1's big weekend in Coventry the other week, wasn't he, and stuff like that. But yeah, genuinely, when you look back at it, O'Hare was one of the most exciting loan signings we've had in a long time. He was a really good little player, but he was just unlucky in a team that was sort of on a little bit of a downward spiral at the point, and he probably wasn't helped by the fact that Jamie Devitt sort of had to play with an injury for the second half of that season mostly. It just kind of felt like... I think I'd agree with you, Dan. I think he had the rug pulled from him a little bit. I wonder if he was brought in on... I wonder if it was a case of either he was brought in on false pretenses or he knew that this was coming and thought, well, I'm not going to get many other chances to manage in English football again. I might as well take it and see what I can do. And it should be noted, he was the one who recognised that Jared Branthwaite had the potential to be a really big player. And he said, didn't he, from the start? Well, didn't say publicly from the start, but he said to quite a few people, he'll play for England one day. He's that good. You know, recognise it. And I know there's a few people who are a bit snotty about that out there and say, oh, he didn't really rate it. It was someone else in the academy. No, it's nonsense. Because remember, me and you, Dan, you specifically spoke to him at Penrith in pre-season, didn't you? And he talked about how good Branthwaite was then, didn't he?
Yeah.
He raved about him. Yeah, but I agree with you. And I think as well, he was a little hard done by for the timing of when he was sacked as well, because we'd lost a trophy game, a meaningless trophy game against Morecambe. But actually, we were starting to improve. We were getting a few results at that point. And it did seem a little bit, why are you doing this now? When, you know, and bringing in, especially when you sack him to bringing in an unknown, basically. Obviously, we now know who, thanks to the recent fans forum, who was the person who decided on Beach coming in. We'll talk about Beach in a sec. But yeah, I feel, I don't know if you agree, Dan, I think he was hard done by the timing of when he was sacked, maybe.
Yeah, possibly.
But it's probably inevitable he was going to go, to be fair.
Yeah.
But there you go. Well, let's talk about Beach then, Mike. I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because everyone will have those great memories that first half of the season when we did so well. But you actually have to look at it. For most of his spell, we weren't a particularly great side, were we?
Well, I think in terms of his ability to spot a player, I think he's one of the best that we've had in the past 10 years or so. Really could find a player, but I think he's a lot of managers have had this problem. Once the rot started, he just didn't have a clue how to change things and how to get us out of that rut, really.
With him, I feel he's a good coach. I mean, you look at it, what he did in terms of making Hayden into a real good quality lower league centre back, working on a couple of other players. I don't think he was a particularly great manager, and we've heard more and more stories that his management style was not particularly great. I mean, when you hear him do his interviews as well, I don't think he was a particularly great speaker. Personally, I don't think he came across that great in a lot of his interviews now. With and people say with hindsight, but I'm pretty sure I said at the time I didn't really enjoy his post-match interviews. I know it's a minor point, but yeah, I mean, you only have to look at the way he handled the captaincy decision when Anderton left, when the obvious decision was make Aaron Hayden your captain, and he decided to go with Guy and keep Hayden as vice captain. And we know now from what we've heard that did wind Hayden up a little bit. He probably still would have left, but he might have had a bit of a harder decision to make if he was captain and he'd just been appointed captain to then drop down to non-league level. But maybe he thought, well, I'm not as well respected here, and that's why he left. Dan, I think you've got quite mixed feelings on Beach as well.
I think looking back, he's a number 2, isn't he?
Yeah.
He probably deserved his chance as a manager, and it started well, but when it did go bad, he just didn't have an answer, did he?
No.
There was no plan B or C. It was just, and I think he relied a little too much on he who won't be named contact. I'm not going to say contacts. I wonder if he had contacts.
Yeah. Yeah, when you look at me like the Dinzey signing, that's a prime example. When Aaron Hayden was sold on the start of the season, he should have had any good manager. I mean, we heard Curl had it and Abbott had it. When a player went, they had a list of players for each position and say, right, we'll go after him. And obviously, if you don't get him, you go for your second or your third choice. It felt to me like they had no one. They didn't even plan for the idea that Hayden might go. Yeah. They basically just went, oh shit, what do we do now? And you end up with, probably your 7th or 8th choice signing. A lad who's, he's probably going to be end up playing National League South next season if he's still playing at all.
If he's lucky.
Yeah. He's not good enough. So I'd agree with you. I wonder, he just had that purple patch where everything went right. On the other side of it, you look at it, we didn't actually play that well. Like you said, he could spot a decent player, and I think he's probably an okay coach. But as a number one, not sold on the idea at all. And that was, he who shall not be named making, really, wasn't it? He was the one who basically went to the board to say he's getting the job, and I couldn't believe that when Nigel revealed that in the... he revealed that in the fans forum, didn't he? And basically said, first I knew was when it was announced. So, yeah, quite incredible. But there you go. Not when it was announced, but when he was told that he's going to be getting the job, basically. So there you go. Right, next question. What have we got up next?
There's Millen as well.
Oh, sorry, Millen. God, trying to forget that. Thank you very much for that, Mike. There you go. Well, go on then, Mike. What are your thoughts on him? Keep it brief.
Yeah, well, because we had a little bit of a revival with him, didn't we? But at the end of the day, he just didn't have a clue about League Two. And with hindsight, I can't believe we ever thought that it could have worked, really. It was never going to work out, was it?
You do wonder if he's getting the job, who the hell were the other candidates? Because, again, from the fans forum, it seemed to emerge that actually the quality of candidate that were put forward to the board on that occasion was pretty dire by the sounds of things. It wasn't good at all. Again, Dan, I think you're in agreement, aren't you, basically, that just didn't... It was just a weird appointment, wasn't it?
Yeah, like we said at the time, it was left field. It came from nowhere. We know where it sort of came from now. And again, I think the Palace lads we spoke to from their pod and people I know at Palace, they spoke highly of him, and I think he's just one of them who's better as a number 2. More a training ground man. Let's be honest, our recruitment was bizarre.
Yeah.
It was very scattergun, I think would be the word.
Yeah, it didn't fit. The news that emerged on how much we spent on agents last season was quite revealing. I think it had gone up, hadn't it?
We don't spend money on agents. I remember someone saying.
Yes, I believe that was the what they said, wasn't it? But yeah, I'd agree with you. I just look back at it now, you just think, what on earth was the thinking there? It did not make any sense at all, did it? It was very strange indeed. Right, well, a quick one here from Nick Blando in terms of the managers. This is the second one here. Would you rather have Michael Knighton back involved in the club or... Obviously, I can't say his name, so I've got the sound ready on this occasion to actually put it in. But go on, Dan, you go first on this one. Who would you rather have?
Michael Knighton, end of answer.
Yeah, I'm in 100% in agreement with that. Michael Knighton was you sort of started going to games sort of just towards the end of his time in charge, I seem to remember.
Well, I mean, it's like been asked if you'd rather have syphilis or gonorrhea, isn't it, really? But I'd probably go Knighton as well.
Which of those diseases has more charisma? That's the question. And Michael Knighton, for all his faults, has charisma coming out of his orifices, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, 100% Michael Knighton, just because, yeah, he could be entertaining as much as he nearly killed the club. But there you go. Right, players are the next bit. Chris from Be Just and Fear Not, he said, pick your 5 players, past and present, for the ultimate penalty shootout, and also a keeper to be the one saving the penalties. Mike, do you want to go first on this one?
Keeper for me, Matty Glennon. And to take them, Ian Hart, Chris Lumsden. It's a good one, isn't it? I'm trying to think, because in more recent years we haven't actually had that many penalties. James Berrett always took a good penalty. I remember in that Aldershot game, Chris Billy smashed it top corner, and Alex McQueen as well.
You've missed some very obvious ones from recent times there. I'm quite surprised, but interesting choice there. Dan, what are you going for?
In goal, I'm going to put Tony Craig because he won us the 97 windscreen shield.
Yeah.
5, Danny Granger.
Of course, yeah.
Ian Hart would obviously be in there. Sticking with left backs, I'd also put Owen Archdeacon in there.
Good shout.
I need a couple of strikers. I can't just pick left backs, can I? A couple of strikers. People I always relied on: Ian Stevens and Mally Poskett. That'd do me.
Does Stevens actually take a penalty for us?
No, but he'd score them all the time because he's the best.
Of course he would. Interesting choices there. I'm going to go for a different keeper from you two as well. I'm going to go for Adam Collin. I'm genuinely surprised that neither of you mentioned him. I totally get Tony Craig. Glennon obviously has got that famous bloody shirt as well, I guess, so that's fair enough. But
well, not just the shootout with Glennon, but I'd always back him every single time.
Yeah, the thing with Colin, interestingly, doesn't have a great record with penalties in normal time, during like actual games. But shootouts, his record is like incredible when you look at it. So I'd go with Colin for goalkeeper. In terms of my takers, Danny Granger, obviously. Ian Hart has previously been mentioned. I'd put Jamie Devitt in there. I mean, he's a very good penalty taker. Took quite a few for us. He was pretty decent. I'd have Richie Foran as well. He had a pretty good penalty taking record for us. And the last one, I think I tempted to go for James Berrett as well because he was pretty good. You know what? I'm going to go for McQueen as well. Like you, Mike, just to see if he can actually put it in the top corner again. As he did.
Surprised I was the only one who picked Lumsden because he had a very good record.
He did actually. Yeah, it's a very fair point. That maybe he'd be my sudden death player, I think, possibly. But there you go. So that's our penalty shootout ones. Interesting to hear what other people's thoughts are on that one. Actually, that maybe want to open up to the listeners to send us in their suggestions. Next one's from our good friend Nick Brown. This is a belter one, this one. I love this question. He said, with you all pretty much agreeing Zach Clough was going to be the second coming of Jesus, who are the permanent signings you've been most excited about who've ended up being absolutely shite? So it's a great question, this.
Well, I can already answer Dan's, and that's Alex Morrow.
Well,
no.
Go on, Dan, what are you going with?
King Richard Offiong.
Yeah. That's a good shot.
He was a really good player at Hamilton, and something just went with him personally. It just didn't happen here. I remember talking to Greg Abbott at a manager's forum, and he said the lad just something switched off inside. He was sent on loan somewhere, and not many people know this. He was actually sent back because they just couldn't work him out.
He had a trial in China with a club. I remember this because I was at the club at the time, and it just did not work out for him. It's fair to say. And at that point, I think the club were just a bit exasperated of like, what do we actually do with him? He's not been as good as we'd hope. It's not working out. Just a really, really strange one, that one, I think it's fair to say. So
It was the fact as well with Offiong, like the team that we had, we were just crying out for a striker, and that would have completed it. And we spent the money on him, and he was like the final piece of the puzzle. And like you say, it just didn't work out. Yeah. And I think he left football not long after his spell with us, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I think it's fair to say. Yeah, good shot, that one, Dan. Mike, what are you going for?
It's tough, isn't it? I mean, Zach Clough is probably the pinnacle of these players. I mean, I was very excited with Tristan Abrams as well last summer, and yeah, that proved to be wrong as well. I mean, there's also like a flip side of this, isn't there? There's been players that we've been underwhelmed to have signed who have been brilliant for us. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Yeah, I don't think anyone beats Clough, to be honest.
No, he certainly agree. He's not one that really really excelled that well. I mean, a couple I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, I remember being quite excited when we signed Josh Gowling, being how impressed we was for Bournemouth against us. I thought he could be, the player coming in and really making a difference, giving us that extra bit of, a younger player who could really make a difference in defence. And he was just bloody awful. No interest at all, really. He clearly wasn't happy. Strange signing in the end. And off the top of my head, I'm struggling to think of any others, really. I think Richie Bennett, maybe, because he'd done so well at Barrow and he scored some spectacular goals. And I wouldn't say he was absolutely shite, though. That's the problem. I think he did okay. But because we'd paid a fee for him, I think people were expecting a lot more from him as a player, maybe.
Shout out to Eric Gates.
Yeah, well, you're going back a bit there, aren't you? I think it's fair to say.
I think when you look back as you're older, Gates was actually too good for us.
Yeah.
That's how bad we were.
Yeah.
It was just our general shiteness made him look bad.
Yeah, I've got some clips from that season. I've got the highlights video somewhere saved on the computer.
Oh, there's a great one.
Go on.
Clive Allen.
Yeah, it's a strange one that he was just towards the end. And to be fair, at least he was the one honest enough to himself to say, wasn't he? Look, this isn't working out. This isn't right. And he basically just walked away, didn't he, in the end? So, yeah.
And another one for me would be Ben Williams, because I remember we lost Westwood, and Williams always looked good playing against us for Crewe. And I thought, he could be a decent replacement, but he was absolutely awful for us. Apart from that game away at Leicester, he was shocking. Yeah,
towards the end of that season, he played okay. He had a few decent games, but beyond that, he didn't do as much. The thing is, it's got to be a player who's really, really exciting, isn't it? So I think the ones I've picked are probably as good as you're going to get. I think Offyong's a great shout, Dan. I think I'd agree with that. I thought, yes, this is like the missing piece of the jigsaw, and it just never really worked out with him, I suppose. And maybe Daddy Kadamashi, but even he had a couple of decent games in his spell. But
I was cynical of Kadamashi when he signed, to be honest.
I think his injury record straight away set a bit few alarm bells, didn't it? So there you go. But I actually, looking back, the summer of 2014-15, you mentioned Alex Sparrow before, but there was 3 or 4 players actually that summer that really didn't do anywhere near as well as we'd hoped.
Billy Painter.
Mark Somerville would be a good shout.
Yeah, Mark Somerville wasn't quite... I mean, was he absolute shite, or was he just... I don't know.
There was reasons why he was bad, though.
Yeah. Danny Kearns obviously signed that summer, 14-15. Really excited about him because I've seen how good he was at Peterborough. And again, big letdown, wasn't he? Just didn't do well at all. So that's those one side. Nick, let us know what yours are. I'm sure you've got a list of plenty, Nick. You know what you like. So next up, Craig Mattinson. He asked, in terms of opposing players, the best keeper, defender, midfielder and striker we have faced, each player must have been seen live and from the league we play in. He's given us his striker, pain in the arse, but it has to be Trundle. I mean, technically, we did actually play against him in this league, didn't we? I suppose on it, what he means, we have to be in the same league as them, I think.
So it could have been when we were, League One or Championship even for me for a year.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Dan, do you want to go first on this?
It's really, really hard, this one. I think Trundle's definitely up there. The lad had talent, didn't he? Last couple of years, Wes Houlihan's up there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have to have a think about this and tell you next time because there's so many.
It's a tough one, isn't it? In terms of striker, I'll give a shout out to Bobby Earnshaw for Cardiff. I seem to remember it was 2000, 2001 when he was just breaking through. I might have imagined this in the I'm fairly sure he played for Cardiff against us last season, and he was... I have to double check this now and make sure I'm not making this up in my head. But
he's the only player to have, I think, scored a hat-trick in Conference, League 2, League 1, Championship, Premier League and International, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got an incredible record. Yeah, he was at Cardiff back then, and he was... I seem to remember it was a game down at Ninian Park. Probably the last time we played at Ninian Park, which was not a place to go for the faint-hearted, was it, Dan? I think it's fair to say.
No.
And he was phenomenal that day. He tore us apart. Again, I'd agree with you with Trundle as well. He was excellent. midfielder-wise, I mean, there's a few. The ones you always remember, the ones who sometimes are quite experienced players, but they, like Julian, they generally just sit there and they just spray it about. And they've got this incredible ability to do it, isn't it? That's the thing that stands out there.
I think best midfielder for me was Andy Robinson.
That's a good shout. Really good shout.
He played. I think he scored a hat trick at Brunton Park.
Yeah,
and he was. That was one of the best opposition performances I've ever seen.
I've got one I want to give, but I can't technically give it because we were League 2 and they were League 1 at the time. But Jason Kumas for Tranmere, you remember that FA Cup game down that we were both at, and he just ripped us apart that day. He was
that counts then because we watched him.
Well, no, because he wasn't in the same division as us. That was one of the stipulated. But we have played against him. But yeah, they are. You can't. If it's one division, I think it's fine. But there you go. We'll have to have a good think about that one, Craig. It's a tough one. We need to actually sit down and actually go through the games we've been to and try and remember who was playing in those games. Okay, up next, grounds. So first up, our good friend Greg Bullman. He's asked, money no object. You can do one upgrade / alteration to Brunton Park. What would it be? Mike, what would you do first?
Well, if money is truly no object, I'd build like an 80-metre wall all around it so it can't flood.
An 80-metre wall around it, but you basically make sure that every place around the ground does get flooded.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Dan, what are you going for?
I would build a new main stand.
Okay.
Proper 2-tier with a middle floor for boxes and all that sort of stuff. I'd maybe even keep terracing on the bottom tier.
Like safe standing.
Yeah. I always look at that double tier stand at Wickham and think a bigger version of that would be good.
Yeah, it's not a bad shot, that, to be fair. Interesting. Personally, I agree with you. I probably would build a new main stand. I'd build a new main stand and make sure that most of the ground floor section, at least the northern side of it, the southern side of it, is just is a big open sort of bar, basically, so the fans can go drink in there. I don't know if you saw recently, what's his name, Andy Holt, the owner of Action and Stanley, put up some videos of their new bar at their ground. It looks fantastic, and I imagine if you had something like that at Brunton Park, you'd be down there every match before the games, definitely. So yeah, that's what I do. It's difficult to go into too much more detail, but I'd agree with Dan. I think I'd build a new main stand basically and do it 2-tier as well. Looks. I'm looking through these. Lewis Ridley sent in 2, but I'm going to actually take the second one he sent in. He said, I saw this other day and it was a picture of the Halifax away end, which is a big open terrace. It's got a roof on it though. He said, what is the best away end in the Football League? Dan?
There's none that stand out to me. I'm just looking through. In our league next season, you can maybe give a shout to Tranmere. Salford was small, but you can make a bit of noise.
I don't like Cruise because you're alongside the pitch in that small stand. It's just a bit weird.
For me, I think you want to be behind the goal for a good away end, and you want a roof as well. We don't ask for much, but behind the goal and a roof.
That said, the away end at Rochdale's not too bad.
Rochdale's not too bad.
Even though you're alongside the pitch.
Doncaster should be all right.
Yeah. Walsall's not too well, though. There's some posts
Wimbledon
there.
will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what that's going to be like.
Doncaster was one of them where if you're on the first couple of rows, you're like below pitch level.
That's weird.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, Bradford was quite cramped in that concourse. I didn't like that at all. That wasn't something I was overly keen on. I think we're all in agreement that Barrow is definitely not one of the better ones.
I'd probably side with Tranmere, to be honest.
Yeah, in our division at least, definitely. I'm trying to think. In terms of the divisions above, off the top of my head, I can't really think of which ones they are. I quite like Morecambe's as an away end. I don't like the bit behind in terms of the concourse area, but generally it's actually not too bad. So there you go. So generally, off the top of our heads, they're the ones we can think of, really. I'm sure there's others if we actually had a good look through them. We'll look through that. In terms of that, I mean, fine. We'll do a final question. What we're going to do, we've got so many questions. We're going to split it up and do the rest in the fixtures release episode. Final question from the grounds one is Ross Parkinson has asked us to rank League Two away days. Now, we're not going to go through all of them, but let's pick one or two of the best ones and two of the worst ones, something like that each. So, Mike, you've obviously probably not been to as many as us, so you can quickly go through the ones you like and which ones you're not.
Of the current crop, I would say that, well, because I'm inclined to say that Crewe is a good away day, but like you said before, it seems we always get it on like Boxing Day, New Year's Day when there's no trains running. If you can get the train to Crewe, it's great. If you can't, then...
Get in there, it's great, but there's actually not that much near the ground, really. It's a bit...
Oh, no, there isn't, but...
It's a little bit depressing, but... No, in terms of getting there, it's easy, yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, Leighton Orient, I'd say. And I'd say Hartlepool, you know. I think, there's always... I'm not going to call it a rivalry, but there's always a little bit of something more when we play them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'd say Leighton Orient and Hartlepool for sort of two different reasons.
And your two bad ones?
Two bad ones. Sutton was awful. And I haven't even been, but from everything I've seen about Barrow, it's just them.
Yeah, there you go. Dan, what are you going for?
Rochdale's always up there.
Yes.
Everyone loves it.
Yes.
It's easy to get to. It is a distance from the station, but pubs are good. We always take a few. Good food nearby. I'm going to back Mike up with Leighton Orient. Everyone loves Leighton Orient for a London game. Folks seem to like Tranmere as well.
Yeah, Tranmere's not a bad
seems
one.
Popular. Horrid ones. Colchester, middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I've not done it yet. I need to do it, but I'm in no rush to do it.
No.
And Gillingham because of that away end.
Yeah, not much to argue with that one. I mean, for my best ones, I'm going to complete the set. Leighton Orient, 100%. Great day out. Pretty easy to get to on the tube once you got into central London. Great pubs nearby, good crack, never any bother. Pretty decent view as well from that stand alongside the pitch. No arguments at all from me on that one. Other ones that I like, Bradford was a decent day out, and the view from the stand actually was pretty good, to be fair, from that stand alongside the pitch. Can't really argue too much there. I'm looking forward to AFC Wimbledon. Whether it's going to be good or not, I don't know yet, but it's one I like. I'm trying to look through all the others. Rochdale, I wouldn't disagree with you on that one, Dan, to be fair. And Tranmere, both of them pretty good days out. The Rotters, Barrow, I've already said it before, just that stand just ruins the day out. Actually, as a town, for going for a few drinks, it wasn't too bad. I mean, the police escort was a pain in the backside, but to be expected. Other ones about Colchester I gave you there, Dan, just 3.5 miles from the town centre. It's just ridiculous. It's too much. What else? Gillingham. Yeah, Gillingham, 100% agree. Gillingham's just a dump of a town. I'm sorry if there's any Gillingham fans happening to be listening, but it just is. And that away end is shocking. And then, as you mentioned, Mike, Sutton wasn't great in terms of it was quite far from where all the pubs were. And obviously the stand behind the goal wasn't great, although they have already started knocking that down, so I think it probably will be better come next season at least anyway. And yeah, so that's my thoughts in terms of those ones. So I think that pretty much sums it up in terms of the questions for this week. We're going to save the other ones. We've got some games and opponents ones and some sort of random ones as well thrown in. Interesting one. One question I'll just drop in now was a question asking us, have we ever met Carl United players in weird locations or circumstances? So we're going to
we've got a plan for this one, haven't we?
We have. We're opening this up for you. Can you please send us in details of weird encounters you've had with Carl United players away from Brunton Park or Carlisle, basically? So you're looking somewhere completely random. You've got a belt for us, haven't you, Mike, for next week?
If you met Jabbo in Jakarta,
yes,
or Dino at Disneyland,
yes, I know someone who has met Dino at Disneyland.
There you go.
Either Dino at Disneyland or was someone else. I can't remember, but I remember someone saying about meeting a Carl United player at Disneyland. Definitely, I remember.
Ronnie Wallwork on B Wing of Strange Road. There's lots of them.
Most likely one. But there you go. Mike, you've got a good one for us about Sean O'Halloran for that. We'll save that for the next episode.
Yeah.
Basically, that's a belting one. There you go. Okay, so for all the questions on there, we've got one more section to do, and that is the X-File section. So, Dan, away you go. It's a busy one this week in terms of transfers, promotions, internationals, management coaches, and one little bit of other news as well. So, plenty to fit in.
Yeah, quite a busy one. Transfers and contracts. Calvin Mellor obviously has left Carlisle and has returned to Crewe on a 1-year deal. Hartlepool released Olamola and Martin Smith, while Jordan Cook was offered a new deal by the club. Gary Liddell turned down his offer, but he's now signed for South Shields. Now, South Shields are one of these clubs that are properly on the up. They get crowds of like over 2,000, and they've got a good little stadium and setup and etc. Zach Clough has got a new 2-year deal with Adelaide United. Made the Sky Sports News ticker, that one. Gavin Riley has went back to Queen of the South on a 2-year contract. That'll suit him, living just at Gretna. And former YTS player Liam Brockbank, who was also at Reds, I think. He was player of the season or in the running for it at Lancaster City, and he's now joined Altrincham, who are obviously National League, so he seems to be kicking on. One piece of trophy news: Byron Webster, captain Bromley to the FA Trophy success at Wembley. He's also been offered a new deal off the back of all that. Management and coaches: Billy Payne to step down from his role at Port Vale's Academy, and Dean Holdsworth, not Holdsworth, appointed joint manager of Stamford Town in the Southern League Premier Division Central. So not the greatest of heights, but others, Aaron Hayden and Paddy Madden, both named in the National League Team of the Season. And then we've got a bit of a bumper international roundup. James Trafford was on the bench for England under-21s, 2 European qualifiers. James Brown, we've mentioned him, he's made the Malta squad before, but he's actually finally made his debut now in a 1-0 defeat to Venezuela. Christ, I love a random friendly like that. Alex McQueen played for Grenada in fixtures against El Salvador, scored in the first game. Reggie Lamb played in 2 fixtures for Bermuda, and he was also made captain and became Bermuda's highest ever capped international with, I think it was 44 caps. Brandon Comley played for Montserrat in defeats to Guyana and Haiti. Bastien Herry played for Madagascar against Ghana in a defeat. He was only on the bench against Angola. And that's it.
Yep. Cheers, Dan. Thanks for rounding all those up. It's certainly a busy week in terms of all that sort of stuff. I'm sure it'll be busy in the next episode as well, because you'll have a lot of players signing for clubs as well. I'm sure Joe Riley will finally reveal where he's going to. Definitely not Walsall, of course. We'll have to see on that one. Interestingly, Simon Weaver revealed that they're not interested at Harrogate in Rod McDonald. So the rumours on that one turned out to be nonsense. So yeah, well, thanks once again to the London branch for sponsoring the pod. Always very much appreciated. In terms of upcoming episodes, the next full episode is probably going to be the fixture release day one, which is on the Thursday, the 23rd of June, is when the fixtures come out. So the Friday morning, there will be an episode where we'll review that. We'll do any other sort of transfer news that will probably be confirmed by then. And we'll, of course, answer the rest of your questions. If you want to send in a few more questions, feel free to do so. We'll pick out the best ones we can.
There's my question as well, the answer.
Oh,
the answers.
Yes, God. So, Dan, if you've got time now, because I know you're in a hurry, do you want to throw out a few names there quickly and see if we can try and think of the internationals?
Ian Hart.
If you want me to make it easy, right, so there is Republic of Ireland, right, we'll go by country. So for the Republic of Ireland, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8?
For the Republic, yeah.
Wow. Way more than I thought. Well,
Ian Hart.
Richard Keogh.
Yeah.
Kieran Westwood.
Yeah.
Roddy Delap? No.
No.
You get back a bit too far now.
Yeah.
Who would the other ones be? Graham Kavanagh.
Yeah.
Completely forgot that he was part of that as well. James Berrett never played full international for Ireland.
Peter Murphy.
Peter Murphy,
Peter
yes.
Murphy, yeah.
Good shout. So how many
Can
is that?
Can I go to Northern Ireland? Corey Evans.
Yeah.
Joe Dudgeon.
Joe Dudgeon didn't get a full cap.
Did he not? I
No.
thought he did.
Oliver Norwood.
Oliver Norwood
Good
did for
shout,
Northern
good
Ireland, yeah.
shout, there you go. So
the other Republic of Ireland ones that you've missed were Paddy Madden, got one cap.
Of course.
Harry Arter and Stephen O'Halloran.
Oh, Stephen O'Halloran was the same time as Murphy, wasn't he? I think they both played in either the same game or the same game on that little tour of the USA they did there. So that's the 8 for them. And then how many Northern Irish were there? Just the 2?
So just the 2 for Northern Ireland. There's 3 for Scotland.
Hang on. Frank Simek, USA.
Yeah, Frank Simet, USA.
Yeah, just when Lee mentioned United States, he popped in my head.
Well done.
Naki Wells, Bermuda.
Yeah.
Lee Miller was one of the Scotland ones.
Yeah.
Oh, who would the other ones be? I'm trying to think off the top of my head now.
One of them you'll kick yourself, but you won't think of him as Scottish.
Scott Derby.
Yeah.
And neither is the one. I can't think who the other one is. Can you think, Dan?
I've just had an idea in my head and I can't think if he did or not.
Go on, have it.
He's
Guess it.
still playing. He's still playing in the Premier League as well.
Oh, Liam Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Netherlands, there's 1.
Tim Krull.
Easy on that one.
Wales, there is 1, 2, 3,
James
4.
Chester.
Yeah, James Chester. Christian Ribeiro.
Yeah.
Star of Homes Under the Hammer. Who would the other ones be? Wales. Give us some clues. Go on.
One of them had an afro.
Oh, Jason
Price.
Yeah, and one of them, I think, he was a striker, but I think he played centre-back for one game for us as well.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, Gareth Taylor.
Yeah, that's the one. There's 1 for Trinidad and Tobago.
Chris Birchall.
Yeah, there's 1 for Slovakia.
Oh,
Lubo.
When did you get that one early?
Yeah, there's 1 for Guadeloupe.
Oh, no.
Kaminges.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's 1 for the Central African Republic.
Gabassian.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
So that's the full list, is it? Wow.
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. So if anyone who's managed to get all them, I applaud you because there was a couple there that even tripped us up. So there you go. So yeah, in terms of the next episode, as I mentioned there, we've got one on fixtures release day. We've also got a couple of specials lined up, including we're finally going to sort out an interview with a blues legend. And really, legend, is a word that's, bounded about quite often, isn't about players. But this lad really is a legend, and he still loves the club as well. So he will be a belting person to chat to. I'm not going to reveal who it is. You can probably all guess who it is. I think it's fair to say. Although you might, if you know me, you know the fact that which Cali United players I love. There's probably one of two players you'll guess. We may well have both of them lined up for interviews at some point soon. You'll have to wait and see. That's it then. Thanks once again for joining me, lads. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Dan.
Cheers.
Up the Blues.
Yep.
Up the Blues.
That's it for this week's episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks for a full episode. Until then, enjoy your summer and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.
Blues.